What's going on, kids? It is Dr. Remy LeBeau. I'm coming at you once again from the X-Layer to provide you my very insightful and deep reaction to the comments that were left on the video for last night's finale to Legion. I got a lot of comments on here and I wanted to address them, but I didn't want to spend time like typing it out, so I thought, well, I'll just make a video reading the comments and addressing them because I think there's definitely more to talk about here, and I think given the fact that we're not going to get any more of this show for, I don't know, what's it going to be, like 8 months? 7 to 8 months? Oh, no, more than that. Like 10 months. Yeah, it'll probably be around 10 months, if not more. I hear Noah Hawley has a lot of things on his plate, and so it could be a while before we actually get more of the show. So definitely we're going to have a good amount of time to digest what we saw and speculate and take in all sorts of different directions. And the show being freshly aired, it's definitely a good time to kind of reflect on what people are thinking about, initial reactions, because obviously our reactions will evolve, they'll change as we get more information, etc., or we are able to kind of put the pieces together in a better way when we are able to watch it all again. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch the season more than once yet, and so I'm looking forward to that. I think I want to watch season 1 through 2 kind of together in a couple of days. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the summer, and really kind of try to put it all together as clearly as possible. Anyway, I'm going to get to the comments. Thank you all for leaving comments and being so engaged in this show experience, because it is an experience, and obviously there aren't that many people that are watching the show yet. I think that'll change over time. And so given that's the fact, we're a community, we're intimate, and it's good for us to kind of interact and figure out, what collectively we can come up with. All right, so the first comment came from, let me see. Actually, no, I think I'm going the wrong, I think I have to go down to the first one, right? Yeah, we have 11. No. Okay, so the earliest comment came 18 hours ago by Abrasive. Abrasive said, "We saw District 3 created Legion when they tried to save the future by killing David." Alright, so Abrasive, you're attributing the creation of Legion, the villain, or whatever it is that David's going to evolve into. You're attributing that to actions by D3, therefore making D3 responsible. Alright, that's interesting. Clearly it's also, you cannot factor out the fact that David grew up with the Shadow King inside of him, and that fucked him up. And he also didn't know that he was a really strong mutant, a telepath, and more. Much more, clearly. And so given all that, I would say that they're responsible in part maybe for catalyzing this latest evolutionary step, but I think the entire process was definitely one that is complicated based on all the experiences that David had. But yeah, definitely I agree with you. D3 is in part responsible. So that's when they became the villains by not giving David a chance. Ah, okay. So they're the villains. I like it. I like this gray area we're operating in. Who's the villain? They follow the exact path that led to the destruction of the future just by trying to prevent it. I actually hope David goes God mode the whole season 3 and just destroys all of them since they deserve it. Never liked any anti-hero more than what I saw there besides comic Lucifer. I like the way you're thinking, I don't know if going God and just killing a bunch of people is what exactly we're going to see, but we'll probably see some of that. I think a lot of what will happen next season will be based on this struggle that David's having in his mind with his various personalities. And that'll take us in a lot of different directions for what he's going to do. One of the things he'll probably do from one of those personalities is to act in that way. In the way that Sid said that he acted when from the future. Actually no, this was Sid in the cave having sort of been convinced by the Shadow King that David's a villain, either through his power or not. And that is when she realized that David enjoyed some of the things that he was doing when the Shadow King was controlling him, and this is something that she realized, and so we're trying to prevent it. I lost my train of thought. Hold on. They follow the exact path that led to the destruction of the future. Just I actually hope David goes God mode the whole season 3 and just destroys all of them. So I was saying one of the personalities will probably be like a cold-hearted killer, and so we'll probably see some of that next season. Never liked any anti-hero more. That's cool that you love this anti-hero so much. Oh man, you got a bunch of people liking your comment. I'm gonna like that as well. We've got Rayfu TD who responded to Abrasive, saying, but he was actively harming people around him. They might have let things slide if he left Sid alone or upfront about messing with Sid's head. He could have told D3 that the Shadow King got to her and he had to kill the delusion. He had done stuff like that before without questioning it. It's weird thinking about it because by keeping things secret, the sex stuff he did with Sid was basically perceived as rape by people at D3. But if he was more upfront about it would just be perceived as a couple dealing with trauma and having romantic issues, loss of spark. Yeah, I didn't even think about the implications of what she said towards the end about him basically raping her when he got into her mind after having kind of wiped out the memory of her having changed her mind about him, essentially. And clearly this is the show bringing the discourse into the show that is obviously important and prevalent in our world right now. That's sort of led by the Me Too movement. And it's an important thing, I think, to examine this question. But definitely we need to be able to differentiate as a society between the extreme cases and the non-extreme cases. Where you have maybe older men that are just behaving in the way that they behave that's not necessarily damaging in its imposition, but uncomfortable and unnecessary and definitely shouldn't exist. But they're not crossing any lines. They're just acting the way they've always acted, and they need to change. But really, eventually, a lot of people will die out, and a lot of these old methods of being will eventually go away. But there are a lot of older men that misbehave to varying degrees that are completely harmless as far as actually intentionally causing harm to another person versus you take someone like Cosby, which again, I'm not going to say Cosby is 100% guilty, but I'd say he's 99.9% guilty at this point. Unfortunately, it's a tragic thing. He's one of the people that I grew up looking up to as well. I watched the Cosby Show endlessly. I've always been excited by him doing new things, and then hearing all this stuff has been heartbreaking, as I'm sure it has been for all of you. But that's the extreme case. Harvey Weinstein is the extreme case. These are people that intentionally inflicted physical harm and had sex with these women against their will. But anyone trying to do anything with a woman against their will is just not doing something right. And that needs to be addressed by our society and our laws. But there are men that are just super flirty and they're always teetering on that line of it being inappropriate from the perspective of maybe people that are less than people that are less than maybe half a century old. These people are aware that that behavior no longer is something that's appropriate. But older people that still live in this world, that lived in the older world where that was okay, they don't always know what's appropriate and what's not, and they need to learn, or eventually they'll die out, as I mentioned. So there is varying degrees, and we do need to differentiate. This is an important, probably, storyline that will kind of play out, and it'll help us sort of flesh out that discourse, that sort of discussion that needs to happen about these issues as often as possible on the show. Ultimately leading to David being, I don't know, it's a murky sort of place. This is the thing. It's if the Shadow King convinced her, not against her will in any way, that David was a villain, and that's why she was so convinced about it, then him taking that away is not him putting her in a position that is against her will, vulnerable and susceptible to his dominance, and therefore him influencing her to the extent they wind up having sex. In the astral plane or not, they did have sex, and it was necessary. It was potentially not against her. It was potentially against her will, but if the Shadow King is controlling her to some extent, then it was not against her will. He was convincing her that she was different. He changed her back. Legion changed her back. David changed her back to who she was and the way she thought. And therefore, those moments were actually authentically her. So it all hinges on whether the Shadow King's in charge. And it really appears as though he is. It really appeared as though he was at the end of the last episode. Anyway, let me see. Abrasive responded, I honestly don't see it as rape since she loves him. Said nothing can happen on the astral plane but W.E. Who did he harm besides Oliver? Where would D3 be without David? He could have told them, but they already had problems trusting him, and considering they always thought he had mental issues, they would never trust him. He did not schizophrenia, meaning his powers mind make new personalities for him to be able to handle the real world so he doesn't get emotionally destroyed by others hurting him. He could be naturally evil, but Sid was one of the two things holding him to the good side. He even offered her to leave after SK was dealt with. She had to take the easy path and kill him, and that's when everything went wrong. Without Sid and friends, David, personality of God, took over, and it's over. All right. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, Abrasive. I see where you're coming from. And Jeremy responds, of course it's rape. Sid did not consent with her mind being altered. They say drug because it has the same concept, and this is the second rape of the season. Sid raped her mother's boyfriend, who ended up being ran out of the house in cuffs. Consent is woven into the plot structure of the entire series. Interesting point, Jeremy. Interesting point referencing the against his will. Well, hold on. So she switched bodies with her mother, started having sex with the guy, essentially raping him, but he had sex with his mother, which he does have sex with, but I guess ultimately, like, the body changed back when they switched back. It was never clear, right? Like, the nature of the power of Sid, like, how the switching of the bodies works. And so, it's unclear what actually happened then. But yeah, I agree, and I like that you pointed that out. And definitely it does lend to the discourse by providing some precedent within the show. But again, for me, it all hinges on whether Farouk had her under his control or not. And that's important. We need to consider that here. You guys aren't considering that here. Noah Hawley had an interview in Vulture. I mean, look, it's controversial. I don't know what the conversation will be, but I think it's worth having the conversation. See, that's what we're talking about, the discourse, the conversation. About consent and about the fact that there's no justification for acting without another person's consent. And as she said, I'm the hero and you're just another villain. On some level, that's the story of the show. The question is there any redemption for him coming out of that, and where do we go next? Fascinating. It's good, man. It's good for them to explore these things in that way. It's good stuff. By the way, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine Mousepad, people. Just in case you're wondering. Hugh Jackman as Wolverine Mousepad. Yes, I am a big X-Men fan. Anyway, Legion's lady responds to Jeremy Anthony. What would you call what Sid did to her mother's boyfriend? That was more rape than Sid and David's situation. That was already mentioned earlier, wasn't it? Yeah. It was mentioned by Jeremy Anthony. And she's responding to Jeremy Anthony. Anyway, abrasive. But what would you call what Sid did to her mother's boyfriend? That was more rape than... She must have missed that, Legion's lady. You must have missed that. Yeah, so yeah, that's a good question. You know, it's a good question. Like, is what Sid did as bad, worse? These are interesting questions that I didn't expect the show to bring up, and I'm glad they did. Anyway, abrasive. First of all, it was on the astral plane. Calling it rape is stupid. Secondly, okay, now we don't need to call anybody stupid. It's all right to have a conversation, but this is the thing. When you're having a discussion about stuff that we all love and we share a love of, just be respectful to the people you're talking to. No, Abrasive. Oh, I see that you're abrasive and it's in your name. So maybe it's okay to. No, well, he's being transparent about the fact that he's abrasive, but to call somebody stupid, I think, is a little bit too abrasive. Anyway, secondly, she's in love with him, especially when he removed those memories. There's no reason she wouldn't want it. Third, how could he know in what state her mind is? It's not like he has full awareness of everyone. Fourth, even if he raped her, he gave her no chance to future reactions. He did not rape around. Okay, now so that's what all this is about. Back and forth about whether he raped her or not. All right. This season we see Sid's face, true face, a villain, Mark Leeson. Yes, changing her memory, then having sex with her is rape, but he thought he was helping her relationship by making her forget her choice to betray him and the information that led to her actions. Remember her episode where she rapes her mom's boyfriend and allows him to be sent to prison? Then she spouts some bullshit about surviving anything. Carrie Loudermilk's betrayal stung bad too. I always root for scientist characters, but he's supposed to be smart. But he judged David for things his future self did. When he decided he had enough and escaped, I was like, fuck yeah. Really looking forward to watching his mess up D3 when they come after him in season 3. Yeah, that's definitely what's likely to happen, Mark. The BC band writes, in response, guys, don't you think so the Shadow King's actually playing with their mind? See, that's what I'm saying. Nobody was mentioning that BC band, and I'm glad you did. Because that's important. Like, we had a whole time when Sid was talking to Jean Smart, Oliver and Madeline. Is Madeline her name? Shit, I forgot her name. Anyway, he was talking to her. I mean, she was possessed by the Shadow King, and she was talking to Sid. So that means she was controlling Sid. Sid doesn't have protections against mind control. She just switches with people's bodies. So Jeremy responds, the Shadow King powers increase with negative thoughts. The more negative, the more control he has over everyone at Division 3. He is controlling Division 3. That is clear good. Consent is very important. When did David start controlling and manipulating Sid's mind? Was it the first time he saw her? Has the delusion of David and Sid love been from the beginning? He deserves love, needs love. Did he manufacture said love with Sid? I think the show is more like a comic. You can be a hero and villain and back again, or at least that's what is coming. Or at least that is what is coming. It's just so fucking slow with the plot. The notion you can be super good and super evil, and when you have a mental illness, it makes that rope even slippier. Also, maybe I'm confused, but the rape did not happen in the astral plane. It was the same dimension David projected. That's true. Himself into the room. So it was Sid's physical body having intercourse with David's projection. But it did happen in her mind because he wasn't actually there. That consent comes in again. She asked David not tonight, go to your room. That's no, number 1 by Sid. The show is trying to make us talk about consent. Also, how quick can you not? It also happens. I can at least somewhat. The day it gets canceled, we are all going to be like, fuck, what the fuck is going on? That's not going to happen. I'm sorry, I should be reading this whole thing, Jeremy. I apologize for kind of blowing through it, but I'm at 18 minutes and I feel like this is going to take me longer than I thought. Anyway, with the cool ass effects, the show is beautiful, but why can't you do both? About the Sid consent rape of mother's boyfriend, I think that was equally as fucked up. We did not feel, who is the hero? Fuck it, David, season 3, supervillain, let's go. I like it. I like this discussion that's being had. I liked your comments about the fact that it's all about questioning heroics and questioning like these paradigms of like villainy and heroism. Great. I love it. I mean, that's how comics should be, you know, because that is ultimately the nature of life. You know, in life there are so many gray areas. Anyway, let's go to Martian Devil, who, this is not a response to the whole last thread. That was the end of the last thread. Now we're starting with Martian Devil's thread. When Sid told David that he drugged and raped her, that's where David became Legion. That black dude that was trapped in the tree warned Sid that avoid to break his heart. We're talking about Ptolemy, the black dude in the tree. And by the way, where the fuck is he? I mean, I know he's dead and like basically his mind is in the Matrix, but like, come on, we're not going to see him in the finale. We didn't see him in the second to last episode either. In response, Johan Shetty writes, could you please tell me which episode did this happen? Black guy from a tree. Martian Devil, Johan, Shetty, Ptolemy, Wallace. I forgot what episode I have to rewatch. Rafi TD writes, I'm pretty sure that Ptolemy is going to be revealed to be under Fukuyima's mask now. Fascinating. I doubt it. Simply the best writes, the director agent with the scarred face tells her that. Martian Devil writes, simply the best. Yeah, my mistake. You are right. Damn. You guys know lines. You guys know who said what. I need to catch up with you. I have only seen the show once so far, so I need to watch it again, apparently. Like in the conversation, simply the best has a completely different comment now, not related to that last thread. Honestly, this spin about Sid being the protagonist is such bull. She is the antagonist. If they're going to pull the rape her angle, she would know she drugged and raped her mom's boyfriend, and she tried to justify with God and curiosity. It's interesting that they are making such a big deal about it, but neglect the fact that she has done that. Anyway, pretty much pushed David to be the person that he was by allowing herself to be manipulated by the Shadow King and all other realities. He is just David, who wants love, and the exception of what he becomes when he becomes super rich. Power corrupts absolutely, the very key. He is Legion, Then again, it would be much of a story if everything went according to plan. Oh well, Lenny is better anyway. Let's convince them nicely. However, if someone is ill, you don't antagonize them to be Shadow King, of course. Yet, I'm getting where you're coming from, simply the best. I'm getting where you're coming from. It's such a complex series of questions that the show raises, and it's great that there is so much potential for different perspectives on it, and obviously you guys are expressing them, and it's awesome. All right, we had Joey Walker, simply the best. I think everyone is the villain and the hero at some point, or maybe even at the same time. Very, 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 very true. Very true. Joey Walker again writes a new thought. I thought that was an astral projection of Farouk. Did he interact with anybody in the room besides David? Good question. Yeah, that was a role in making him look crazy to the people in the room. Farouk literally put delusion, telling him his future was the first crack in his mind. They actually created the monster. Yeah, really interesting stuff, right? That they created him? Yeah. It's a good question if Farouk was in the room. I think he was, but I have to go back and watch it again. Rayfu TD wrote, for the most part, I don't think Farouk is controlling D3. He may still have power over Sid because of past actions. D3 seen David's actions and came to the conclusion of what to do about him on their own. I don't know. I don't think so. Farouk got what he wanted and is no longer a threat, basically giving they leave him be. So controlling everyone is pointless and keeping him restrained is pointless. D3 at this point will more than willing to keep Farouk happy of their own free will as long as he stops hurting people. That, I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that, Rayfu TD. We're talking about a mutant of the highest power degree who can control anybody's mind. Like, you don't, and has exhibited psychotic tendencies, willingness to kill, willingness to hurt, and that is not something you just allow to be out in the world. Like, given the fact that he's already acted, like, he should be punished by the law and imprisoned. Like, that's it. Like, they would not allow him to just, like, be walking around. There's no way. I doubt it. And with all due respect, I doubt it. Something wrote, completely different comment. No use debating this trash show. They tried to make things more sophisticated and cool and failed miserably. The show lost their reliability to their viewers. Look, man, this is the thing. Some shows are more about the art form than the content. And that's what this show is about, because in the end, the art form doesn't necessarily just need to be a story. That's not what filmmaking needs to be. It can be an expression of a reality. It can be some in-between version of just trying to create an experience and have some sort of narrative. And that's sort of what the show is doing. So it's not trying to do anything. It's just picking a stylistic approach to telling its story, which is different than most shows do. And it has the right to do that, you know. And as long as the Fox is willing to fund it, then fuck it, you know. I'm all for it. I love it. But I understand it's not your conventional storytelling, and like, you need to be okay with that, you know. Either the show's for you or not. Like, in the end, that's ultimately what's important, whether the show is for you or not. But thank you for leaving your comments, man. Y Tank responds, something, yup. That's why they renewed the show for another season. Troll, go watch Arrow or something. All right, J-Tank7. We don't need to be mean. But yeah, Arrow is a very conventional storytelling show. So that's definitely a show that somebody that doesn't want to watch kind of, abstract storytelling to some degree, have that abstract storytelling be a big component of a show. If somebody doesn't want that, you should probably not be watching Legion. Or maybe you should be watching it, binging it is what I think. Anyway, we've got Blonde Lady. You can make yourself crazy trying to figure out the possible questions and answers of Legion, LOL. And that's the whole point, but that craziness is fun crazy. It's not like, I'm crazy and I need to be put in a mental hospital and drugged. It's more like, I'm crazy and I love it, because it's just such a fun experience to not know so much about something you love so much and only be able to speculate on the possible ways of explaining it. Anyway, Vincent Esposito writes, my theory is that Farouk and the Professor are one and the same person, possibly conflicting personalities within the same person, much like David. The episode was very much The Empire Strikes Back in the series, so much so that I seriously thought Farouk was going to say, no, I am your father. He is kind of his father, to be honest. He is, because David didn't have a father, and he had this old guy inside of him guiding him and controlling him and shaping him. So he's kind of his father. My theory is that Farouk and the Professor are one. Is the Professor Carrie? Or are you talking about... Who are you talking about, the Professor? Are you talking about Carrie? Oh, are you talking about Admiral Fukuyama? Interesting. Let me know. Simply the Best wrote, no, sorry, the Shadow King is his own person. Any X-Men fan will tell you this. I'll tell you that. Especially now that he has his physical body back, which is something I don't think ever happened in the comics. Vincent Esposito responded, oh, don't worry, I've been an X-Men fan for a very long time. This is not Earth 616. The show has never followed the comics exactly, but rather followed ideas from the comics, much like how there's a Mandarin in the MCU, but he only bears a superficial resemblance to the Mandarin in the comics. I see both of your sides to this. I understand that you think that they're taking big liberties with this character, and I have to agree with that, Vincent. But Simply the Best is also right that there's certain elements of certain characters that you don't screw with, and so the fact that, it would be pushing it pretty far to have him be, more than one character. But whatever, the show can do whatever the fuck it wants, so it's always a possibility. We've got Legion's Lady. Looks like David's girl that he's been hiding. This is a completely new comment, new thread. I feel like Sid's perception of the situation is being greatly influenced by the Shadow King. Remember the mouse that he whispered to? Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying too. Yes, David erased or influenced her somehow after she fired the gun, but how is what he did worse than when she switched bodies with her mom and got that guy arrested? I think there's a fine line, and both situations are on the same side of that line. I'm still Team David, so hopefully Season 3 isn't too Sid-focused. The show is called Legion, after all, not Sid. Just my 2 cents. Sid is an important character because David is a fragile human being, and he needs Sid in his life to give him some balance. And the fact that she did give that to him, and now she's taking that away from him, is a great source of drama for the character. So I like having her around as sort of that catalyst to David's behavior, acting in ways that are unpredictable, because I think that's a good thing. But I like Sid, But yeah, it should definitely be about Legion, without a doubt. The BC Band, I am in this team too, yeah. So everybody kind of wants Sid to take a back seat and be more about Legion. Hey, I'm with you. All right, Brooks Heron, completely new comment, says, great review. Thank you, Brooks Heron. I appreciate that. You're the first person to compliment me. Not that I'm sure everybody else is happy with stuff. The ones that subscribed, anyway. By the way, thank you all you new subscribers, and, of course, all my existing subscribers. It's always nice to see and hear from you. Brooks Heron, great review. One of the best episodes of Season 2 for me. Whatever they do in Season 3, I hope there's more Oliver. I do as well. I like Oliver as well. He's an entertaining character and a great actor. All right, we have a new comment. Shardarius O'Neill. They created their own villain. David had trust for only two people, Amy and Sid. His sister and Sid. For the one you loved to try to shoot you, created Legion. But what's really made him change was the trial. He would rather go evil than go to that damn mental institute. I don't blame him for emerging. They charged him for crimes he did not commit. Simply the best, commented pretty much. I agree, but you know what? I don't believe that he's become a villain. I don't believe it. I mean, he just escaped from there. He didn't hurt anybody. He got Lenny out, and that was it. Anyway, let's move on to Rubayita Arsene. Right, it's a completely new comment. Sid enabled David with all her BS. Sure, now they are both rapists, but you have to feel empathy for David. Why would you want to put him back in the... how do you calculate the... Sid almost shot. I mean, you could have figured out a way to let David down easy instead of killing him. Yeah, I guess. I'm just not in agreement with the people that are commenting about them being rapists, because her, yes. What she did was completely inappropriate and definitely rapey. But David, like I said, if the Shadow King was controlling her, then he erased her control. If he erased his control over her, which means that he was just sending her back to the right mindset of who she is. So she would willingly choose to have sex with him because she had been up until that point. Anyway, Finicky Finnick writes, they did manage to avoid future Sid's description of her reality. Farouk didn't die the way she said he would, so that's something. I don't see where they can go from here to redeem everybody. Well, we don't know what the nature of the reality of the storytelling will be moving forward. You may be right about them having changed the future, but maybe not. Maybe the killing of Farouk happens later, so we don't know yet. Flip Bratkovic writes, exactly like Farouk said at the beginning, my love is vengeance. Yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. My love is vengeance. Like, his love, so David wouldn't give him love. And so his love is David. It's about retribution. He's a scorned father, lover. Like, in the mind, they could be lovers, in this weird, entangled way. I mean, it's very close to what the Purple Man did to Jessica Jones, if you've seen the Jessica Jones show, which, by the way, is fantastic. I really love Jessica Jones. Anyway, Beach Bum writes, the opening scene was epic. Great song for the two to be singing as they were floating toward each other. Love this crazy, weird show. Yeah, I agree with you. Masterful. Just masterful. I loved it. It was such every kind of candy you can think of as a person that enjoys entertainment. Especially filmic entertainment that focuses on the X-Men. Anyway, Jessica Mullington writes, put an X in the box, huh? Yeah, because ain't nobody checking me. Nicki Minaj, Girl on Fire. Keval Singh wrote, it seems like the Shadow King was controlling everyone in the interrogation room, but how is he able to control Fukuyama? I thought he was supposed to be able to resist telepathic attacks. Is that true? Was that stated at some point? I think, wasn't it the Vermilion that were able to protect themselves against psychic attacks because they're not really human? They're half android in a sense and being controlled by Fukuyama. So if Fukuyama's being controlled, then they could be controlled. And Fukuyama, I think, can be controlled. I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe I misheard that at some point. Let me know what episode that was said in. I'll check it out. Jessica Mullington writes, how did the tuning fork get back, though? I don't think it did. I think it was just sent wherever it was sent when the Shadow King threw it away. Or maybe David moved it, David's a telekinetic as well, clearly. Like, he can eviscerate a person. That means he can move their fucking atoms. So he can move an entire tuning bell. Or it's just where the Shadow King threw it and it landed, and that's where Lenny shot at it. Jessica Millington then writes herself, sweet collection, by the way. Yeah, thank you. Worked hard on getting it together. Love it. They won't take it to full-on villain, no way. It would isolate all these characters that they spend so much time on. I think the crew and D3 will be trying to help or maybe even send the Sphere back with more info. I mean, we don't know, but because this is the thing. Like, if the Shadow King is controlling them, then they're going to do whatever he wants them to do, And I believe the Shadow King is controlling them. Yes, the artistry alone is just exquisite. I'm just grateful for Aubrey Plaza staying on. So am I. I like that they keep finding reasons to have her around. It's cool. I like it. Thanks for the tip. Now I get to go watch The Gifted. Yeah, The Gifted. It takes a few episodes to get going, and then it really fucking takes off, and it is all fucking X-Men. Love that shit. You'll really enjoy it. I also have reviews for that if you want to check them out. There's a playlist on my channel for all the episodes as it was airing for the first time. Blondie Lady response to Jessica Millington. Aubrey is the best. Yeah, she is. She's pretty cool. Brand new comment by Curdy CT. Did anyone else notice Cap or at least his shield as one of the projections during the fight? Can't remember if it was red or blue, but I would think David if it did happen. Yeah, I think I saw something. I didn't go back and check it out. By the way, I'm just reading these raw, like I haven't read them before, so I don't know what you asked. I'll go back and check that because I did notice something. There's so many details in that thing. I'm going to be loving watching that for the rest of my life. Joey Walker writes, so when Oliver told Farouk he was going to kill him, did he mean at some point in the future, or did he just fail, which is why he and Melanie had to escape to the ICU? Probably the latter. Even though I'm pretty sure Oliver's pretty powerful as well. Joey Walker wrote, what's your grade for this season and the first season? Grade, huh? I'm going to give the season 1 an A. I'll give this one an A-. And probably because with the first season, they didn't know they were going to get a second season, so it wasn't as open-ended. There was that cliffhanger, but it clearly we got another season, and that kind of took us a year into the future and changed a lot of what happened. Or a lot of the nature of the show, like the location, a lot of the storytelling. They kind of merged all the groups into one, whereas before they were adversaries. So like the burnt government guy with Melanie's group. So I think now that they know that the show's going to continue, like they made it a little less close-ended, and it feels a little bit more sort of in medias res, like in the midst of action, like it getting cut off. And I like that because it makes me look forward to what's to come, which is probably going to be more than one season. But also, it doesn't feel as unified as the first season, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the artistry. I enjoyed the episodes. And so I give it an A-. I'll give the first season an A and this one A-. But in the end, I'm going to give them all X's because that's what I do here in the Xler. Anyway, that's my little video answering some of the comments on my Legion Season 2 episode 11 season finale video that I posted last night after the last episode of Legion, which was fucking awesome, by the way. Yeah. So, thanks for checking out my channel. If you haven't already done so, there's a little button under the screen that says subscribe. Click it. Check out future content. You never know. You might like some of the stuff I post. It's possible. If you like this video, make sure you click a like down there. And as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, you better put an X in the box because ain't nobody checking me. Thank you, folks. Take care. Bye-bye.